Bienvenidos al canal de YouTube de Ediciones Radio. Aquí encontrarás vídeos especializados en cada tema. Si te gusta nuestro contenido, no olvides suscribirte, darle a me gusta y comentar tu experiencia. Gracias por elegirnos en tu camino hacia el éxito.
Recuerda que todos nuestros temarios también están disponibles en formato digital y papel. Para cualquier duda puedes escribirnos a info@edicionesradio.com. Cuerpo de Maestros. Inglés. Volumen 1.
Index. Main ideas. Life is a foreign language, all men mispronounce it. Christopher Morley. U.S. author and journalist, 1890 to 1957. Introduction. This topic aims to explain the linguistic structures of the English language, its rules and possible combinations. All this represents the grammar of a language. Although grammar should not be the only objective in the teaching process, knowledge of grammar is an essential component to develop communicative competence, and is thus reflected in Crown Decree 157/2022 of March 1st, which establishes the organization and minimum teachings of primary education. In Article 7, it points out the objective F, which mentions the acquisition in at least one foreign language of the basic communicative competence that allows expressing and understanding simple messages and dealing with everyday situations. This topic is directly related to the four language skills: oral comprehension and expression, written comprehension, and expression. All of them are reflected in the aforementioned Crown Decree 157/2022 of March 1st, in Annex 2, Foreign Language, in the form of specific competencies. The specific competencies refer to the performance that students must be able to display in activities or in situations whose execution requires the basic knowledge of each area. More precisely, in the same Crown Decree Annex 2 Foreign Languages, the contents are collected through basic knowledge. Basic knowledge is the set of knowledge, skills and attitudes that constitute the contents of an area and whose learning is necessary for the acquisition of specific competencies. The following is included in this section. A. Communication. Basic linguistic units and meanings associated with these units, such as expressions of the entity and its properties, quantity and number, space and spatial relations, time, negation, question and exclamation, elementary logical relations. 1. Essential morphosyntactic elements of the English language. To start with this section, we would like to recall what morphosyntactic refers to. On the one hand, it refers to morphology, which is a sub-discipline of linguistics that studies word structure. While words are generally accepted as being the smallest units of syntax, it is clear that in most languages, words can be related to other words by rules. For example, English speakers recognize that the words dog, dogs, and dog catcher are closely related. English speakers recognize these relations by the unconscious linguistic knowledge they have of the rules of word formation processes in English. Therefore, these speakers intuit that dog is to dogs just as car is to cars. Similarly, dog is to dog catcher as dish is to dishwasher. The rules comprehended by the speaker in each case reflect specific patterns in the way words are formed from smaller units, and how those smaller units interact in speech. In this way, morphology is the branch of linguistics that studies such patterns of word formation across and within languages. Syntax, on the other hand, is the study of the rules, or patterned relations, that govern the way the words in a sentence come together. It concerns how different words, nouns, adjectives, verbs, etc., are combined into clauses, which in turn are combined into sentences. There are many theories of formal syntax, but most of them share at least two aspects. First, they hierarchically group subunits into constituent units, phrases. Second, they provide some system of rules to explain patterns of acceptability, grammaticality, and unacceptability, ungrammaticality. Most formal theories of syntax offer explanations of the systematic relationships between syntactic form and semantic meaning. Syntax is defined, within the study of signs, as the first of its three subfields, the study of the interrelation of the signs. The second subfield is semantics, the study of the relation between the signs and the objects to which they apply, and the third is pragmatics, the relationship between the sign system and the user. In order to communicate in the foreign language, we have to acquire and then command the use of series of morphological and syntactic elements. This is the way to achieve an optimum level of development of the four language skills. The development of the four skills is closely related to the concept of communicative competence, which is present in the Organic Law 3/2020 BO of the 29th of December 2020, henceforth LOMLOE, amending the Organic Law of Education 2006. Its preamble underlines the importance of development of communicative competence. Next, we are going to consider some more theoretical points of view. As mentioned before, morphology studies grammatical forms, whereas syntax works on the functions words have. The linguistic sign carries the following information. As far as contents is concerned, it tells us about the meaning, studied by semantic and lexicology, and function, studied by morphosyntax. As to expression, it tells us about the form, investigated by phonology, and substance, investigated by phonetics. A sentence which is considered as the smallest structural unit has these two structures: the profound structure, which is related to thinking, and the superficial structure, which is related to speech. Besides, it has the following components: the nominal syntax, subject, and the verbal one, predicate, and may have adjective and prepositional syntax. Monemes can be divided into lexemes, full meaning, and morphemes, grammatical meaning. Among the morphemes, we can find the following: united, prefixes, interfixes used in some Arabic languages, suffixes. Flexive, to conjugate verbs. Derivative, diminutives, augmentatives. Free, determinants, auxiliary verbs, prepositions, conjunctions. We can divide words into three groups. Primitive words, one moneme. Derivated words, one moneme and prefix or suffix. Compound words. Hollow right-pointing triangle syntactic compounds, under the weather. Hollow right-pointing triangle asyntactic compounds, also runs. After this general introduction, we are going to explain briefly word formation and syntax. 1.1. Word formation. Morphology treats with word formation. In English, there exist the following possibilities to form words. 1. Affixes. 1.1. Prefixes, under pay. 1.2. Suffixes, booklet. 2. Compound words. 2.1. Nouns, motorcycle. 2.2. Adjectives, flat-nosed. 2.3. Verbs, babysit. 2.4. Reduplicatives. Expressions where the second syllable or part of a word or expression imitates the first part in a rhyming or rhythmic manner, e.g., tip-top. 3. Change of function in the sentence. 3.1. Noun to verb, bottle to bottle. 3.2. Verb to noun, to swim to a swim. 3.3. Adjective to noun, daily to a daily. 3.4. Adjective to verb, empty to empty. 4. Loans. 4.1. Italian, piano. 4.2. French champagne. 4.3. Spanish sherry. 4.4. Dutch yacht. 4.5. India, pajamas. 5. Clipping. 5.1. Of the first syllable, bus for omnibus. 5.2. Of the last syllable, bike for bicycle. 5.3. Of both, flu for influenza. 6. Blend joining words, motel for motor hotel. 7. Abbreviations, NATO. 8. Back formation or regressive derivation, to edit from editor. 1.2. Syntax. A sentence is a group of words that is used to communicate ideas in writing or in speaking. Every sentence is composed of one or more clauses and expresses a complete thought. If a sentence has various members, these are subject and predicate. The predicate can be nominal or verbal. Clauses are joined to make various types of sentences. 3 groups of words are used to connect clauses in order to do this. 1. Subordinators, subordinating conjunctions. 2. Coordinators, coordinating conjunctions. There are only 7 coordinators, which can be remembered by the mnemonic phrase, fanboys. 3. Conjunctive adverbs, sentence connectors. These are some of the most commonly used conjunctive adverbs. The independent clauses in a compound sentence may also be joined by a semicolon only. This kind of sentence occurs when the 2 independent clauses are closely related. If they were not closely related, they would be written as 2 simple sentences, separated by a full stop. My older brother studies law, my younger brother studies medicine. The kind of sentence is determined by the kinds of clauses used to form it. There are basically 4 kinds of sentences. 1.2.1. Simple sentences. As to simple sentences, these can be divided into 2 groups. One is defined by the predicate and the subject, the other by the speaker's attitude. If we analyze the sentences defined by predicate and subject, again we can make up 2 groups, attributive and predicative. Here is one example for each. Attributive, he is a farmer. Predicative, I like oranges. Predicative simple sentences have many subgroups, like passive, reflexive, impersonal, etc. As to sentences defined by the speaker's attitude, we can find 1. Statements, he is leaving. 2. Questions. Yes/no questions, are you happy? WH questions, where does Peter live? Alternative questions, do you prefer bananas or strawberries? Tag questions. James isn't here, is he? 3. Orders, come here. 4. Requests, please help me. 5. Exclamations, what a nice shirt. 6. Interjections, wow. 1.2.2. Compound sentences. A compound sentence is 2 or more independent clauses joined together. Each clause is of equal importance and could stand alone. There are 3 ways to join independent clauses to form a compound sentence. With a coordinator. I enjoy playing tennis, but I hate playing golf. with a conjunctive adverb. I enjoy playing tennis, however, I hate playing golf. With a semicolon. I enjoy playing tennis, I hate playing golf. 1.2.3 Complex sentences. A complex sentence contains one independent clause and one or more dependent clauses. In a complex sentence, one idea is generally more important than the other one. The more important idea is placed in the independent clause, and the less important idea is placed in the dependent clauses. This is called subordination. Subordinators, or subordinating conjunctions, change an independent clause in a dependent clause. Example: independent clause, I got up early. Dependent clause, although I got up early. The dependent clause now becomes subordinate to, or depends on, the addition of an independent clause to complete the idea. There are three kinds of dependent clauses used in complex sentences: adverb, adjective, and noun clause. A dependent adverb clause begins with an adverbial subordinator, such as when, while, because, even though, so that, if, etc. There are two possible positions for a dependent adverb clause: before or after the independent clause. If it comes before the independent clause, it is followed by a comma. Although women could own property, they had no right to vote. If the dependent adverb clause comes after the independent clause, no comma is used. Women had no right to vote, although they could own property. A dependent adjective, relative clause begins with a relative pronoun such as who, whom, which, whose, or the relative adverbs where, when, and why. A dependent adjective clause functions as an adjective, that is, it modifies a noun. Men who are single are called bachelors. Last summer we rented a flat in Luxembourg, which is a small country in Europe. A dependent noun clause begins with that, a WH question word, whether, and sometimes if. A noun clause functions as a noun, that is, it can be a subject. That the Earth's temperature is rising concerns scientists. Or an object. Scientists found that the Earth's temperature is rising. Of the independent clause. 1.2.4 Compound complex sentences. A compound complex sentence is a combination of two or more independent clauses and one or more dependent clauses. After Sam graduated from high school, he wanted to travel, but he had to work in his family's business. In the next point, we will explain how grammar and structures can be taught. 2. Basic communicative structures. In the following, we are going to present the main language functions which are gathered in the threshold level. See topic 11. 1. Imparting and seeking factual information. 1.1. Identifying, this is Peter. 1.2. Reporting, including describing and narrating, he said he was ill. 1.3. Correcting, I am not happy. 1.4. Asking, are you 10 years old? 2. Expressing and finding out intellectual attitudes. 2.1. Expressing agreement and disagreement, I don't agree. 2.2. Inquiring about agreement or disagreement, do you agree? 2.3. Denying something, there is no sugar. 2.4. Accepting an offer or invitation, yes please. 2.5. Declining an offer or invitation, I'm afraid I cannot come. 2.6. Inquiring whether an offer or invitation is accepted or declined, will you come to my party? 2.7. Offering to do something, shall I close the window? 2.8. Stating whether one knows or does not know something or someone. I don't know Peter. 2.9. Inquiring whether someone knows or does not know something or someone. Don't you know Jane's friend? 2.10. Stating whether one remembers or has forgotten something or someone. I don't remember his name. 2.11. Inquiring whether someone remembers or has forgotten something or someone. Do you remember them? 2.12. Expressing whether something is considered possible or impossible. Is it possible that Peter knows him? 2.13. Inquiring whether something is considered possible or impossible. Is it possible that Peter knows him? 2.14. Expressing capability and incapability. Peter cannot swim. 2.15. Inquiring about capability and incapability. Can Peter swim? 2.16. Expressing whether something is considered a logical conclusion, deduction. Peter must be at home. 2.17. Inquiring whether something is considered a logical conclusion, deduction. Must Peter be necessarily at home? 2.18. Expressing how certain or uncertain one is of something. I am sure. 2.19. Inquiring about how certain or uncertain others are of something. Are you sure? 2.20. Expressing whether one is or is not obliged to do something. I don't have to make my bed. 2.21. Inquiring whether one is obliged to do something. Do I have to make my bed? 2.22. Expressing whether others are or are not obliged to do something. Peter doesn't have to study. 2.23. Inquiring whether others are obliged to do something. Do you have to go to school? 2.24. Giving and seeking permission to do something. You may go to the toilet. 2.25. Inquiring whether others have permission to do something. Are you allowed to go to the cinema? 2.26. Stating that permission is withheld. Peter is not allowed to see the film. 3. Expressing and finding out emotional attitudes. 3.1. Expressing pleasure and liking. This is very nice. 3.2. Expressing displeasure, dislike. I don't like sweets. 3.3. Inquiring about pleasures, liking, displeasure, dislike. Would you like a glass of water? 3.4. Expressing interest or lack of interest. That's very interesting. 3.5. Inquiring about interest or lack of interest. Are you interested in sports? 3.6. Expressing surprise. This is a surprise. 3.7. Expressing hope. I hope so. 3.8. Expressing satisfaction. This is very nice. 3.9. Expressing dissatisfaction. I don't like this. 3.10. Inquiring about satisfaction or dissatisfaction. Do you like this? 3.11. Expressing disappointment. That's a pity. 3.12. Expressing fear or worry. I'm afraid. 3.13. Inquiring about fear or worry. Are you afraid? 3.14. Expressing preference. I prefer bananas. 3.15. Inquiring about preference. Which do you prefer, bananas or apples? 3.16. Expressing gratitude. Thank you. 3.17. Expressing sympathy. I am sorry. 3.18. Expressing intention. I'm going to play football. 3.19. Inquiring about intention. Are you going to visit Jane? 3.20. Expressing want, desire, I'd like to visit my grandmother. 3.21. Inquiring about want, desire, would you like to go to the cinema? 4. Expressing and finding out moral attitudes. 4.1. Apologizing, I am very sorry. 4.2. Granting forgiveness, that's all right. 4.3. Expressing approval, good. 4.4. Expressing disapproval, you shouldn't eat another ice cream. 4.5. Inquiring about approval or disapproval, is this all right? 4.6. Expressing appreciation, it's very nice. 4.7. Expressing regret, I am so sorry. 4.8. Expressing indifference, it doesn't matter. 5. Getting things done. 5.1. Suggesting a course of action, let's go to the swimming pool. 5.2. Requesting others to do something, please buy some milk. 5.3. Inviting others to do something, would you like to go for a walk? 5.4. Advising others to do something, you should go to the dentist. 5.5. Warning others to take care or to refrain from doing something, be careful. 5.6. Instructing or directing others to do something, wash your hands. 5.7. Offering assistance, can I help you? 5.8. Requesting assistance, can you help me please? 6. Socializing. 6.1. To greet people, hello. 6.2. When meeting people, how are you? 6.3. When introducing people and when being introduced, this is Sam. 6.4. When taking leave, goodbye. 6.5. To attract attention, excuse me, could you tell me the way to the station? 6.6. To propose a toast, cheers. 6.7. To congratulate, congratulations. 6.8. When beginning a meal, enjoy your meal. 3. Progressive usage of grammatical categories in spoken and written production to improve communication. Teaching grammar plays a central role in every ESL/EFL teacher's classroom. The important question that needs to be answered is, how to teach grammar? In other words, how can students be helped to learn the grammar they need? At first look, you might think that teaching grammar is just a matter of explaining grammar rules to students. However, teaching grammar effectively is a much more complicated matter. There are a number of questions that first need to be addressed for each class. What are the objectives of this class? The answer to this question is important, as it will help to decide on how much grammar really needs to be taught. What type of learning background do the learners have? Which grade are the students in? Have they studied for a number of years? Are they familiar with grammar terminology? What learning materials and resources are available? The more learning resources there are, the easier it will be to employ different strategies when teaching grammar. For example, a group of students who like using computers could use the computer to study a certain grammar task, while another group who prefers spoken explanations might prefer to have the teacher explain the point with a number of examples. Obviously, the more varieties of learning opportunities, the better the chances are that each student will be able to learn the grammar point well. What kind of learning style does each student have? Are the learners comfortable with standard right brain learning techniques, logical charts, study sheets, etc.? Do learners work better with listening and repeating exercises? This is one of the most difficult aspects of teaching, especially teaching grammar. If the learners in the class have similar learning styles, a similar approach can be used. However, if the class has mixed learning styles, then you should try to provide instruction using as many different methods as possible. To apply the theory studied up to now, you may use the different techniques and ideas we propose in the following. 3.1. Inductive and deductive. Inductive is known as a bottom-up approach. In other words, students are discovering grammar rules while working through exercises. Deductive is known as a top-down approach. This is the standard teaching approach a teacher has when explaining rules to the students. According to modern methodologies for language learning, it is recommendable to use inductive learning exercises. However, there are certainly moments when the teacher needs to explain grammar concepts to the class. The following is an example of class structure when teaching grammar skills. 1. Begin with an exercise, game, listening, etc. that introduces the grammar concept. 2. Ask students questions that will help them identify the grammar concept to be taught. 3. Follow with another exercise that focuses more specifically on the grammar concept, but takes an inductive approach. This could be a reading exercise with questions and responses in the structure that is being taught. 4. Check responses. Ask students to explain the grammar concept that has been introduced. At this point, introduce teaching explanations as a way of clearing up misunderstandings. 5. Provide an exercise which focuses on the correct construction of the grammar point. This could be an exercise such as a fill the gap, close test, or tense conjugation activity. 6. Ask students to explain the concept. As you can see, the teacher is facilitating students to do their own learning rather than using the top-down approach of dictating rules to the class. 3.2. Grammar chants. Another way of teaching grammar is using grammar chants. They can be a lot of fun to use in classes. They are especially effective when used to help students learn problematic forms. Grammar chants use repetition to engage the right side of the brain's musical intelligence. The use of multiple intelligences can help students speak English automatically. Many of the chants are simple. However, through the use of repetition and having fun together, students will improve their automatic use of the language. Using a chant is straightforward. The teacher stands up in front of the class and chants the lines. It is important to be as rhythmical as possible because these rhythms help the brain during its learning process. The following chant can be used to practice question forms. Teacher leader, go. Class group, go. Hollow right pointing triangle teacher, leader, who goes? Hollow right pointing triangle class group, who goes? Teacher leader, he goes. Class group, he goes. Hollow right pointing triangle teacher, leader, where does he go? Hollow right pointing triangle class group, where does he go? Teacher leader, he goes to school. Class group, he goes to school. Hollow right pointing triangle teacher leader, when does he go to school? Hollow right pointing triangle class group, when does he go to school? Teacher leader, he goes to school in the morning. Class group, he goes to school in the morning. Hollow right pointing triangle teacher leader, how does he go to school? Hollow right pointing triangle class group, how does he go to school? Teacher leader, he goes to school by bus. Class group, he goes to school by bus. Hollow right pointing triangle teacher, leader, what does he do at school? Hollow right pointing triangle class group, what does he do at school? Teacher leader, he learns lots of things. Class group, he learns lots of things. Hollow right pointing triangle teacher, leader, why does he go to school? Hollow right pointing triangle class group, why does he go to school? Teacher leader, because he wants to learn. Class group, because he wants to learn. 3.3. Sentence auctions. Holding sentence auctions is a fun way to help students review key points in grammar and sentence construction. Basically, students in small groups are given some money with which to bid on various sentences. These sentences include correct and incorrect sentences. The group which buys the most correct sentences wins the game. Aim: grammar and sentence structure review while having fun. Activity: sentence auctions. Level: lower levels. Outline: hollow right pointing triangle divide the class into small groups of 3 or 4 students per group. Hollow right pointing triangle explain the rules of this auction. Hollow right pointing triangle the aim of the game is to buy as many correct sentences as possible. Hollow right pointing triangle each group will have €3,000 to spend. Hollow right pointing triangle bids begin at €200. Hollow right pointing triangle bids increase by €100 each bid. Hollow right pointing triangle the sentence will be sold to the highest bidder. Remember, €400 going once, €400 going twice, €400 sold to group X. Hollow right pointing triangle the winner of the game is the group which has bought the most correct sentences. You can make the auction more difficult by declaring the winner based on the number of correct sentences minus the number of incorrect sentences. 5 correct sentences minus 3 incorrect equals 2 correct sentences. Hollow right pointing triangle once the game has finished, go through each sentence saying whether it is correct or incorrect. Hollow right pointing triangle after things have calmed down, go through each sentence explaining any grammar or usage questions that arise. Sample sentences. Decide which sentences or phrases you would like to buy. Collect correct masterpieces. Watch out for incorrect fakes. 1. I don't have money enough to come with you this afternoon. 2. Look at those dark clouds. It's going to rain. 3. What will you do after you graduate from school? 4. They don't often have dinner in a restaurant. 5. He enjoy going to football games. 6. Would you like some coffee? 7. Jack did paint in Los Angeles in 1995. 8. She will be late for the meeting. 9. She has beautiful dark red long hair. 10. You don't have to do your homework this weekend. It's optional. 11. Could you please help me with their homework? 12. Did you 8? 3.4. Teaching grammar in situational contexts. To summarize, we can say that covert grammar teaching is a guided inductive approach whose central philosophy is that showing second language students the patterns of language, rather than telling them the rules of grammar, allows them to integrate rules more deeply and naturally into long-term memory. Combining notions from the lexical approach, functional notional curriculum, whole language, monitor model, constructivism, brain-based research, collaborative and cooperative learning, learning styles and multiple intelligences, This approach uses techniques such as the physical manipulation of sentence and paragraph components and graphic organizers to have students discover and build language structures. Overt grammar teaching, on the other hand, is only recommended in some learning teaching situations. Grammar is reflected in Crown Decree 157/2022, Annex 2, Foreign Languages Basic Knowledge, in the section Communication, which will help pupils to acquire the key competencies, linguistic communication, and multilingual competence. 1. Essential morphosyntactic elements of the English language. Clauses are the main building blocks of sentences. There are two kinds of clauses, independent and dependent. An independent clause expresses a complete thought and can stand alone as a sentence by itself. I hate jogging. B. A dependent clause begins with a subordinator and cannot stand alone. There are three kinds of dependent clauses: adverb, adjective, and noun. Each kind is punctuated differently. Although I hate jogging, which people of all ages can enjoy. That people with weak bones shouldn't jog. There are four kinds of sentences in English. A simple sentence is one independent clause. I hate jogging. B. A compound sentence is two independent clauses joined by a coordinator, a conjunctive adverb, or a semicolon alone. I hate jogging, but I love hiking. I hate jogging, however, I love hiking. I hate jogging, I love hiking. C. A complex sentence is one independent and one or more dependent clauses. The punctuation of complex sentences varies according to the kind of dependent clause it contains. D. A compound complex sentence contains two independent clauses and one or more dependent clause. I hate jogging, but I love hiking because it is a sport which people of all ages can enjoy. 2. Basic communicative structures. 1. Imparting and seeking factual information. 2. Expressing and finding out intellectual attitudes. 3. Expressing and finding out emotional attitudes. 4. Expressing and finding out moral attitudes. 5. Getting things done. 6. Socializing. 3. Progressive usage of grammatical categories in spoken and written production to improve communication. 3.1. Inductive and deductive. Inductive is known as a bottom-up approach. In other words, students are discovering grammar rules while working through exercises. Deductive is known as a top-down approach. This is the standard teaching approach that has a teacher explaining rules to the students. According to modern methodologies for language learning, it is recommendable to use inductive learning exercises. However, there are certainly moments when the teacher needs to explain grammar concepts to the class. 3.2. Grammar chants. Another way of teaching grammar is using grammar chants. They can be a lot of fun to use in classes. They are especially effective when used to help students learn problematic forms. Grammar chants use repetition to engage the right side of the brain's musical intelligence. The use of multiple intelligences can help students speak English automatically. 3.3. Sentence auctions. Holding sentence auctions is a fun way to help students review key points in grammar and sentence construction. Basically, students in small groups are given some money with which to bid on various sentences. These sentences include correct and incorrect sentences, The group which buys the most correct sentences wins the game. 3.4. Teaching grammar in situational contexts. Conclusion. Main ideas.